Ip Man 3 is a 2015 Hong Kong biographical martial arts film directed by Wilson Yip, produced by Raymond Wong, and written by Edmund Wong, with action choreography by the legendary Yuen Woo-ping. As the third installment in the Ip Man film series, the movie continues to dramatize the life of the Wing Chun grandmaster Ip Man, a figure revered not only in Hong Kong and mainland China, but across the global martial arts community. Donnie Yen reprises his iconic title role, further cementing his status as one of the most accomplished martial arts actors of his generation. The film is set in Hong Kong during the late 1950s and early 1960s, a period of colonial rule and social upheaval. By this time, Ip Man has already established himself as a respected teacher, but he faces new challenges that test his philosophy, his family bonds, and his physical limits. Unlike its predecessors, Ip Man 3 places greater emphasis on the personal and emotional dimensions of the Grandmaster's life, particularly his relationship with his wife, Cheung portrayed sensitively by Lynn. Her character, suffering from a terminal illness, becomes the emotional anchor of the film, shifting Ip Man's motivation from national pride and communal honor to tender, intimate devotion. The film also introduces significant new characters. Ip Man's most famous pupil, Bruce Lee, is portrayed by Danny Chan Kwok Kwan, an actor and martial artist who underwent extensive training to capture Lee's mannerisms and fighting style. Although Bruce Lee's role is relatively brief, his presence serves as a symbolic bridge between traditional Wing Chun and its global popularization. More prominently, the film features Cheung Tin-chi, also known as Sam Nung, a fellow Wing Chun expert and rival played by Zhang. Cheung Tin-chi represents a darker, more pragmatic interpretation of Wing Chun, one driven by ambition, pride, and the desire for recognition. Their rivalry culminates in a breathtaking, emotionally charged duel that ranks among the finest fight sequences in modern martial arts cinema. Adding to the film's star power, former heavyweight boxing champion Mike Tyson makes his East Asian cinema debut as Frank, a ruthless property developer and crime boss. Tyson's character, though somewhat caricatured, brings a palpable sense of menace and physicality. His showdown with Ip Man is a highlight of the film, blending Tyson's raw power with Yen's speed and precision. The fight choreography, overseen by Yuen Woo-ping, renowned for his work on The Matrix, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and Kill Bill, strikes a careful balance between realism and cinematic flair. Yuen incorporates traditional Wing Chun techniques such as chi sa, sticky hands, chain punches, and low kicks, while also adapting them for dramatic effect. Principal photography for Ip Man 3 commenced in March 2015 and concluded in June of that same year. Filming took place primarily in Shanghai and Foshan, the latter being Ip Man's actual hometown. The production team painstakingly recreated 1950s Hong Kong street scenes, complete with period-accurate signage, costumes, and vehicles. Donnie Yen, who also served as the film's action consultant, reportedly insisted on performing most of his own stunts, despite the physical toll of the demanding schedule. Zhang, a former wushu champion, underwent several months of Wing Chun training to ensure authenticity in his fight scenes with Yen. Mike Tyson, despite having no prior Wing Chun experience, adapted quickly due to his boxing background, though his scenes required careful coordination to avoid accidental injuries, a challenge given the power disparity between the actors. The film premiered in Hong Kong on December 16, 2015, followed by official releases in Hong Kong, Singapore, and Malaysia on December 24, 2015, perfectly timed for the Christmas holiday season. It then opened in Taiwan on December 31, 2015, before expanding to New Zealand and the United Kingdom on January 15, 2016. Australian audiences saw the film 1 week later, on January 22, 2016, the same day as its limited release in the United States. Mainland China, however, did not receive the film until March 4, 2016, a delay attributed to post-production adjustments and scheduling considerations. This staggered release strategy allowed the film to build word-of-mouth momentum across different markets. Critically, Ip Man 3 received generally positive reviews, though it sparked more debate than its predecessors. On aggregator sites like Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds a moderate approval rating, with praise directed at the fight choreography, Yen's performance, and the film's emotional core. However, some critics felt that the plot was overly reliant on melodrama and that the villainous characters lacked depth. The inclusion of Bruce Lee, while fan-pleasing, was seen by some as underdeveloped. Nevertheless, the film was a commercial success, grossing over $156 million worldwide against a budget of approximately $156 million worldwide against a budget of approximately $36 million. The film garnered 8 nominations at the Hong Kong Film Awards, including Best Film, Best Director, Wilson Yip, Best Actor, Donnie Yen, Best Supporting Actress, Lynn, Best Cinematography, Best Art Direction, Best Action Choreography, and Best Editing. It ultimately won the award for Best Editing, Zhang. Additionally, Ip Man 3 achieved significant recognition at the 2016 Shanghai International Film Festival, where it won Best Action Choreography, Best Director, and the prestigious Best Picture Award. This marked a notable departure from the festival's usual art house preferences, signaling the growing acceptance of martial arts films as legitimate cinematic art. Thematically, Ip Man 3 distinguishes itself from typical kung fu films by foregrounding moral restraint and compassion over vengeance and glory. In the climactic fight with Cheung Tin-chi, Ip Man defeats his rival but refuses to deliver a final, humiliating blow. Instead, he offers a lesson. There is nothing wrong with being famous, but the most important thing in life is the people by your side. This line encapsulates the film's central message, that martial arts mastery is ultimately meaningless if not grounded in love and human connection. The film also explores the tension between tradition and modernity, as the older generation of martial artists grapples with a changing world symbolized by colonial real estate development, Western boxing, and the rise of celebrity culture through Bruce Lee. In conclusion, in the sweltering summer of 1959, Hong Kong was a crowded nexus of refugees, dreamers, and survivors. Amid the chaotic streets of Mong Kok, Ip Man, the grandmaster of Wing Chun, lived a deliberately low-profile existence. Having fled the turmoil of Foshan, he now resided in a modest rooftop flat, where laundry lines and the distant roar of rickshaws formed the backdrop of his days. The apartment was cramped, smelling of jasmine tea and old wood, a far cry from the grand martial arts halls he once commanded. His elder son, IP Chun, had recently returned to their ancestral hometown to continue his studies under the watchful eyes of relatives. The decision brought a quiet sorrow to IP Man's eyes, a father's unspoken grief at the dispersal of family. Left in Hong Kong were his younger son, IP Ching, a spirited boy of 9 with restless energy, and his devoted wife, Cheung Wing-sing, who masked her own worries with gentle smiles and well-stirred kanji. One humid afternoon, as Ip Man practiced the Shu Nim Tao form alone on his balcony, his movements slow as rising dough, a sharp knock echoed through the flat. At the door stood a teenager, barely 16, with electric confidence in his posture, Bruce Lee. He was not yet the global icon, but already a street fighter with too much speed and too little patience. "Master IP," Bruce said, bowing stiffly, "I want to become your student. I want to learn Wing Chun." Ip Man studied him for a long moment, then gestured to a corner of the room. "Show me what you already have," he said quietly. Bruce exploded into motion, a blur of sidekicks, chain punches, and footwork so rapid it seemed to tear holes in the still air. He finished with a triumphant grin. Ip Man did not smile. He walked slowly to the front door, opened it wide, and gestured outward. "The stairs are steep," Ip Man said enigmatically. "Be careful not to trip." Bruce hesitated, pride warring with confusion. He did not yet understand that the master was inviting him to leave, not out of cruelty, but because raw speed without a comm center was a storm that destroys its own harbor. Bruce left, vowing to return. Days later, a different storm brewed at a local schoolhouse. Cheung, having inherited his father's quiet dignity, but not yet his restraint, got into a fierce brawl with a classmate named Cheung. The fight started over a broken ink brush, escalated to shoving, and ended with both boys on the dusty ground, noses bleeding. Their teacher, a bespectacled and weary woman named Miss Wang, summoned the parents. Only the IPS arrived promptly, Wing Sing looking mortified, Ip Man calm as a still pond. Fong's father was absent. As an apology, Ip Man invited young Fong to their home for dinner that very evening. A full stomach softens hard feelings, he told the boy. That night, at the IP residence, Fong revealed a surprise. After dinner, while the adults drank tea, Fong mimicked a series of movements he had seen at home. Low stances, straight punches, the distinctive forward pressure of Wing Chun. They were crude but unmistakably authentic. Who taught you these? Ip Man asked, leaning forward. My father, Fong replied. He trains at night when he thinks I am asleep. Before Ip Man could inquire further, another knock came. At the door stood a tall, sinewy man with calloused knuckles and a gaze like chipped flint. Cheung Tin-chi, Fong's father. Tin-chi smiled politely, thanked the IPS for dinner, and guided his son away. But in that brief exchange, Ip Man sensed something coiled beneath the cordial surface. A quiet envy, a competitive fire. Tin-chi was also a Wing Chun practitioner, one who had long heard the whispers of IP Man's mastery and secretly yearned to prove himself the greater. That secret jealousy soon found a dark outlet. Tin-chi began fighting in underground pits organized by Ma King-sang, a local triad boss with a shaved head and a gold-toothed smile. Ma worked for Frank, a sleek American property developer who had made a fortune boxing in the military before turning to real estate. Frank possessed not just money but lethal hands. His right hook had broken jaws from Manila to Macau. Now, Frank ordered Ma to acquire a prime piece of land, the very school where IP Ching and Cheung Fong studied. The principal, an elderly man named Mr. Su, refused to sell. That school is all these children have, he said. One afternoon, Ip Man arrived to pick up his son and walked into a nightmare. Ma King-sang and 6 of his thugs had surrounded Mr. Su, slapping him, kicking his legs out from under him. Children screamed. IP Ching and Fong hid behind a desk. Ip Man stepped forward and spoke only once, "Leave him alone." When Ma sneered and threw a punch, Ip Man moved like water finding cracks in stone. A single tan saw, deflecting hand, redirected the blow, followed by a palm strike to Ma's chest that sent him crashing into a desk. 2 more men lunged. Ip Man dropped them with chain punches to the ribs and a low sweep. But instead of pressing his advantage, he stopped. The triad members scrambled to their feet, dragging Ma away. "This is not over, old man." Ma spat, blood on his lip. That evening, Ip Man sought help from his closest friend in the police force, Fat Pa, a rotund, sharp-minded Royal Hong Kong Police Chinese detective sergeant. They sat on stools outside a noodle stall, steam rising between them. "I counted 6, Ip Man said. "Tomorrow there will be 20. Fat Pa wiped his mouth and sighed. "I believe you, but the triads own half the precinct. I can send a patrol car once a day, maybe twice. I cannot guard that school around the clock. My superintendent would laugh me back to the beat." He placed a heavy hand on IP Man's shoulder. "You need more than badges, old friend. You need bodies, willing ones." Ip Man nodded slowly. That night, he gathered his students, a motley dozen, a rickshaw puller, a fishmonger, a retired soldier, and several young men who had come to him for self-discipline. "We will not seek violence," Ip Man told them in the bare practice room, candlelight flickering across his face. "But we will not abandon children to wolves." Tomorrow we guard the school." The students exchanged glances, then bowed as one. It was not a declaration of war, but it was the end of silence. From that moment, Ip Man stepped out of the shadows he had so carefully built around himself. In 1959, in a corner of Hong Kong that did not yet know its own future, a quiet master and his ragtag disciples prepared to stand against corruption, greed, and the ghosts of rivalry. The schoolyard would become a battlefield. Returning home from the shipyard that night, Ip Man carried more than exhaustion in his bones. The adrenaline of battle had faded, replaced by a hollow ache in his chest. And then his wife, Cheung met him at the door with pale lips and a handkerchief dotted red. For weeks she had hidden her coughs, her dizzy spells, the mysterious weight loss. But that night, she could hide no longer. Ip Man took her to a clinic at dawn. The diagnosis fell like a hammer: cancer. Malignant, creeping, already into her lymph nodes. The doctor spoke of limited options: palliative care, herbal medicine. Time measured in months rather than years. Ip Man sat in the sterile white hallway, his famous calm finally cracking. He did not weep. He simply placed his hands on his knees and stared at the floor, practicing the first form of Wing Chun in his mind, over and over, as if repetition could hold back the tide. Days blurred into a routine of bitter medicine and fragile hope. Ip Man and Wing Sing walked slowly through the crowded streets of Mongkok to a small shop known for its ginseng and rare herbs. They moved as they always had, close but not clinging, silent but not distant. On the way back, with rain beginning to fall, they stepped into the narrow elevator of their apartment building. The door slid shut with a pneumatic sigh. Then, just before the button for the third floor could be pressed, a hand wedged between the closing doors. The Muay Thai fighter, Pracha, stepped inside. His shins were wrapped in frayed rope, his knuckles calloused into stone. He said nothing. He simply attacked. The elevator became a cage of thunder. Pracha's knee rose toward Ip Man's ribs like a piston, only to be deflected by a low-ten saw. A brutal elbow followed, grazing Ip's forehead and drawing blood. Wing Sing pressed herself into the corner, clutching the bag of herbs, her breath shallow. Pracha was relentless. Every kick aimed at the liver, every punch a finishing blow. But Ip Man had fought in narrow corridors before, in Foshan, in Hong Kong, in the narrow alleys of his own memory. He stopped retreating. Instead, he dropped his center of gravity and attacked the fighter's legs. Low side kicks to the knees, stomps to the instep, a Bill G thrusting fingers, to the inner thigh that deadened the nerves. Pracha's rhythm broke. His next roundhouse kick was slow. Ip Man caught it, stepped in, and delivered a chain of palm strikes to the sternum. When the elevator doors opened on the ground floor, nobody had pressed a button. Pracha stumbled out onto the wet pavement, one leg dragging. He did not rise again quickly. Ip Man took Wing Sing's trembling hand and led her home. Neither spoke of what had just happened. Some silences are louder than screams. The next afternoon, Fat Per arrived at the IP flat with a folder stuffed with photographs and bank records. Frank's face stared up from a grainy surveillance image. Broad jaw, dead eyes, the build of a man who had survived wars both ring-bound and real. He blames you for the school, for Ma's arrest, for every failed dollar, Puss said, lighting a cigarette with shaking fingers. Frank doesn't forgive. He doesn't forget. He wants you eliminated at all costs. I've heard whispers of a bounty on your head. Ip Man poured tea. Then I will go to him. Pa nearly choked. That's suicide. Ip Man shook his head slowly. No, that's the only way to end this. That evening, Ip Man walked alone into Frank's corporate office, a glass tower overlooking the harbor, where ships moved like patient ghosts. Frank sat behind a mahogany desk, a brass knuckle paperweight in his hand. He did not stand. He did not call security. Instead, he smiled. You lasted 3 minutes in an elevator with my Thai champion. Impressive, but I am not him. Frank rose to his full height, 6'4", 240 pounds of scarred muscle. Here is my offer, Master IP. You last 3 minutes in a ring with me. Not an elevator. A real ring. No weapons. No running. If you survive, I leave your little school alone. If you don't, well, your wife won't have a husband to buy herbs for anymore. Ip Man agreed. The ring was set up in Frank's private gym. Ropes, mat, bright lights. No audience except 2 bodyguards and a clock. The first minute was a disaster. Frank fought like a steam engine. Powerful jabs, hook punches that cracked the air, a relentless forward pressure that drove Ip Man into the ropes twice. IP's Wing Chun, built for close quarters and economy of motion, was being smothered by sheer mass and reach. A straight right split IP's eyebrow. A left hook to the ribs made him taste blood. But Ip Man had not survived war, poverty, and exile by surrendering to despair. In the second minute, he changed his strategy. Instead of meeting Frank's force with force, a fool's errand, he dropped low and attacked the legs. Low side kicks to the thighs, stomps to the feet, a gam saw splitting hand that drove into Frank's groin guard and unbalanced him. Frank grunted, stumbled, and for the first time, showed surprise. Ip Man followed with rapid chain punches to the solar plexus, then retreated before a counter swing could land. The third minute became a chess match. Frank's power against IP's precision, raw force against redirected energy. When the clock buzzed, both men stood bleeding, Frank from a split lip, IP from his brow. Neither had knocked the other down. A draw. Frank spat blood onto the canvas. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed, a dry, humorless sound. 3 minutes, he said. And you didn't run. You didn't beg. He extended a gloved hand. The school stays, but if you ever step into my business again, I won't offer a timer. Ip Man took the hand, nodded once, and walked out into the Hong Kong night. The rain had stopped. Somewhere, a street vendor was selling jasmine tea. Ip Man bought 2 cups, one for himself and one to bring home to Wing Sing. The cancer was still there. The future was still uncertain. But for this one evening, the school was safe and his wife was waiting. That, Ip Man decided, was enough. Returning home from the shipyard that night, Ip Man carried more than exhaustion in his bones. The adrenaline of battle had faded, replaced by a hollow ache in his chest. And then his wife, Cheung Wing Sing, met him at the door with pale lips and a handkerchief dotted red. For weeks she had hidden her coughs, her dizzy spells, the mysterious weight loss. But that night, she could hide no longer. Ip Man took her to a clinic at dawn. The diagnosis fell like a hammer: cancer. Malignant, creeping, already into her lymph nodes. The doctor spoke of limited options: palliative care, herbal medicine. Time measured in months rather than years. Ip Man sat in the sterile white hallway, his famous calm finally cracking. He did not weep. He simply placed his hands on his knees and stared at the floor, practicing the first form of Wing Chun in his mind, over and over, as if repetition could hold back the tide. Days blurred into a routine of bitter medicine and fragile hope. Ip Man and Wing Sing walked slowly through the crowded streets of Mongkok to a small shop known for its ginseng and rare herbs. They moved as they always had, close but not clinging, silent but not distant. On the way back, with rain beginning to fall, they stepped into the narrow elevator of their apartment building. The door slid shut with a pneumatic sigh. Then, just before the button for the 3rd floor could be pressed, a hand wedged between the closing doors. The Muay Thai fighter, Pracha, stepped inside. His shins were wrapped in frayed rope, his knuckles calloused into stone. He said nothing. He simply attacked. The elevator became a cage of thunder. Pracha's knee rose toward IP Man's ribs like a piston, only to be deflected by a low-ten saw. A brutal elbow followed, grazing IP's forehead and drawing blood. Wing Sing pressed herself into the corner, clutching the bag of herbs, her breath shallow. Pracha was relentless. Every kick aimed at the liver, every punch a finishing blow. But Ip Man had fought in narrow corridors before, in Foshan, in Hong Kong, in the narrow alleys of his own memory. He stopped retreating. Instead, he dropped his center of gravity and attacked the fighter's legs. Low side kicks to the knees, stomps to the instep, a Bill G thrusting fingers to the inner thigh that deadened the nerves. Proch's rhythm broke. His next roundhouse kick was slow. Ip Man caught it, stepped in, and delivered a chain of palm strikes to the sternum. When the elevator doors opened on the ground floor, nobody had pressed a button. Proch stumbled out onto the wet pavement, one leg dragging. He did not rise again quickly. Ip Man took Wing Sing's trembling hand and led her home. Neither spoke of what had just happened. Some silences are louder than screams. The next afternoon, Fat Per arrived at the IP flat with a folder stuffed with photographs and bank records. Frank's face stared up from a grainy surveillance image. Broad jaw, dead eyes, the build of a man who had survived wars both ring-bound and real. He blames you for the school, for Ma's arrest, for every failed dollar, Pa said, lighting a cigarette with shaking fingers. Frank doesn't forgive. He doesn't forget. He wants you eliminated at all costs. I've heard whispers of a bounty on your head. Ip Man poured tea. Then I will go to him. Pa nearly choked. That's suicide. Ip Man shook his head slowly. No, that's the only way to end this. That evening, Ip Man walked alone into Frank's corporate office, a glass tower overlooking the harbor, where ships moved like patient ghosts. Frank sat behind a mahogany desk, a brass knuckle paperweight in his hand. He did not stand. He did not call security. Instead, he smiled. You lasted 3 minutes in an elevator with my Thai champion. Impressive, but I am not him. Frank rose to his full height, 6'4", 240 pounds of scarred muscle. Here is my offer, Master IP. You last 3 minutes in a ring with me. Not an elevator. A real ring. No weapons. No running. If you survive, I leave your little school alone. If you don't, well, your wife won't have a husband to buy herbs for anymore. Ip Man agreed. The ring was set up in Frank's private gym. Ropes, mat, bright lights. No audience except 2 bodyguards and a clock. The first minute was a disaster. Frank fought like a steam engine. Powerful jabs, hook punches that cracked the air, a relentless forward pressure that drove Ip Man into the ropes twice. IP's Wing Chun, built for close quarters and economy of motion, was being smothered by sheer mass and reach. A straight right split IP's eyebrow. A left hook to the ribs made him taste blood. But Ip Man had not survived war, poverty, and exile by surrendering to despair. In the second minute, he changed his strategy. Instead of meeting Frank's force with force, a fool's errand, he dropped low and attacked the legs. Low side kicks to the thighs, stomps to the feet, a gam saw splitting hand that drove into Frank's groin guard and unbalanced him. Frank grunted, stumbled, and for the first time, showed surprise. Ip Man followed with rapid chain punches to the solar plexus, then retreated before a counter swing could land. The third minute became a chess match. Frank's power against IP's precision, raw force against redirected energy. When the clock buzzed, both men stood bleeding, Frank from a split lip, IP from his brow. Neither had knocked the other down. A draw. Frank spat blood onto the canvas. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed, a dry, humorless sound. 3 minutes, he said. And you didn't run. You didn't beg. He extended a gloved hand. The school stays, but if you ever step into my business again, I won't offer a timer. Ip Man took the hand, nodded once, and walked out into the Hong Kong night. The rain had stopped. Somewhere, a street vendor was selling jasmine tea. Ip Man bought 2 cups, one for himself and one to bring home to Wing Sing. The cancer was still there. The future was still uncertain. But for this one evening, the school was safe, and his wife was waiting. That, Ip Man decided, was enough. When Donnie Yen first stepped into the role of Ip Man for the 2008 biographical martial arts film, He could not have predicted the cultural phenomenon that would follow. The film was a critical and commercial triumph, not merely a showcase for Yen's extraordinary physical precision, but a heartfelt meditation on dignity, family, and resistance against oppression. 2 years later, Ip Man 2 arrived, pitting the grandmaster against a British boxer in a colonized Hong Kong. Yen was proud of the sequel. In interviews following its completion, he declared with characteristic frankness, "Because Ip Man 2 will incontrovertibly become a classic, bettering the first. I believe it's best to end something when it's at perfection and leave behind a good memory." For Yen, the logic was simple and almost artistic. Why risk dilution when you have already achieved a perfect diptych? The story felt complete. Ip Man had defended his homeland, then his honor. To continue, Yen feared, would be to chase echoes rather than create new music. His reluctance deepened as the marketplace grew crowded. Before the release of Ip Man 2, Yen had already noticed a troubling trend. The success of the first film had spawned a wave of unauthorized or loosely affiliated productions, each offering its own version of a Wing Chun master's life. There was The Legend is Born, Ip Man, 2010, Ip Man, The Final Fight, 2013, and Wong Kar-wai's lush, Meditative the Grandmaster, 2013, starring Tony Leung. Yen found the situation exasperating. He stated publicly that he would no longer be involved in any film based on IP Man's life, citing the oversaturation of the subject matter. He worried that audiences would grow tired of seeing the same historical figure portrayed in slightly different shades, and that the brand he had helped build would be damaged by inferior imitations. "It is not good for the legacy," he said in a later interview. "People will confuse which story is real and which is just business." Yet while Yen and producer Raymond Wong were initially cool to the idea of a third installment, director Wilson Yip harbored a different vision. Yip had always seen IP Man's story as incomplete, not in terms of battles won or villains defeated, but in terms of the most famous relationship of IP Man's later years, his mentorship of Bruce Lee. Ip Man 2 had offered only the briefest glimpse of Lee as a child, a knowing wink to the audience. Yip wanted more. He dreamed of finding a suitable actor to portray Lee as an adult, capturing the electric dynamic between the serene grandmaster and his most explosive student. In Yip's mind, a third film would not be about higher stakes or larger villains. It would be about passing the torch, about tradition meeting rebellion, about a quiet man trying to control a force of nature named Bruce Lee. That, Yip believed, was a story worth telling even after a so-called perfect ending. 4 years, the project languished in uncertainty. Then, in March 2014, Variety broke the news. Ip Man 3 would finally shoot in early 2015. Wilson Yip would return as director. Donnie Yen would reluctantly but determinedly reprise his role as IP Man Raymond Wong would produce once more. And in a bold technological move, the film would be shot in 3D for a release during Chinese New Year 2016, a prime box office window reserved for the biggest Hong Kong and Chinese blockbusters. The announcement surprised many who had followed Yen's earlier statements. What had changed? The answer, according to Raymond Wong in a December 2015 interview, was patience, or rather strategic waiting. There were numerous unrelated Ip Man films being made, Wong explained, ticking them off on his fingers. The Legend is Born, The Final Fight, The Grandmaster. Each had told a different version of IP Man's life, some more fanciful than others. Wong and Yen had made a conscious decision. Let the imitators exhaust themselves. Let the market settle. Let audiences forget, just a little, so that when the true third chapter finally arrived, it would feel like a return rather than a redundancy. We wanted to wait till all that ended. Wong said simply. By 2015, the wave had crested. The other Ip Man films had come and gone, leaving varying degrees of impression. The time was right. Ip Man 3 would ultimately introduce Bruce Lee as a proper character, played by Danny Chan, explore IP Man's relationship with his dying wife, and feature a show-stealing duel against Mike Tyson's fictional property developer. It grossed over $150 million worldwide, becoming the highest-grossing film in the series. Donnie Yen, who had once sworn he would never make a third, would go on to make a fourth, Ip Man 4, the finale in 2019. Such is the nature of franchises. Perfection is a moving target, and good memories have a way of demanding sequels. But Yen's initial reluctance, born of genuine artistic concern, remains a fascinating footnote in the saga of how one actor tried, and ultimately failed, to walk away from the role that defined his later career. In March 2015, The Hollywood Reporter dropped a bombshell that electrified the martial arts film world. Mike Tyson, the former undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, would be joining the cast of Ip Man 3. Tyson was set to play a dual role of sorts, a street fighter turned ruthless American property developer, a character named Frank, in a clear nod to the fictionalized antagonist from earlier drafts of the franchise's mythology. For Tyson, who had made sporadic cameo appearances as himself in films like The Hangover, 2009, and its sequels, this marked a significant departure. The first time he would appear in film or television as a substantial character other than himself. The casting was a coup. Tyson brought genuine fighting credibility, international name recognition, and an intimidating physical presence that even Donnie Yen acknowledged would require careful choreography. When Mike Tyson throws a punch, Yen joked to reporters, "You don't block it, you move." The same Hollywood Reporter article contained an even more startling revelation. The production team, according to the outlet, had encountered a seemingly insurmountable casting problem. Despite extensive auditions across Hong Kong, mainland China, and Southeast Asia, they could not find a living actor capable of capturing Bruce Lee's unique intensity, that volatile mixture of charisma, speed, arrogance, and philosophical depth. His energy is impossible to replicate. A production source was quoted as saying, "Every actor either looks wrong or feels wrong." As a solution, Pegasus Motion Pictures announced they would use computer-generated imagery, CGI, to recreate Bruce Lee digitally, bringing the martial arts icon back to the screen through ones and zeros. The plan was ambitious, technically complex, and immediately controversial. Within weeks of the announcement, Chris Storti, the chief operating officer of Bruce Lee Enterprises, BLE, the company that serves as the sole owner of all worldwide rights relating to Bruce Lee, including his name, image, likeness, signature, and associated intellectual property, issued a blistering statement. Bruce Lee Enterprises is justifiably shocked over Pegasus Motion Pictures' decision to include Bruce Lee in their film Ip Man 3, Storti said. He emphasized that the use was completely unauthorized by BLE and that no agreement had been sought or granted. Then came the legal ultimatum. To state it in no uncertain terms, BLE intends to seek all remedies available to it to stop Pegasus from including the computer-generated version of Bruce Lee in Ip Man 3. Those remedies could include injunctions, damages, and potentially the seizure of any prints or digital copies containing the unauthorized depiction. For a film already deep into pre-production, the threat was existential. Pegasus, however, did not retreat. Instead, they advanced a counterclaim that introduced a dizzying twist into the legal drama. According to Pegasus, the intellectual property rights to Bruce Lee's likeness in the context of Ip Man 3 were owned not by Bruce Lee Enterprises, but by Robert Lee, Bruce Lee's younger brother. Robert had been hired as a consultant on Ip Man 3, and Pegasus argued that his involvement and consent provided all the legal cover they needed. This assertion was immediately and forcefully denied by BLE. The company reiterated that Robert Lee, while a family member, held no authority over the commercial rights to Bruce Lee's image, which had been controlled by BLE, operated by Bruce Lee's daughter, Shannon Lee, for decades. The dispute quickly became public, messy, and emblematic of the larger challenges surrounding posthumous depictions of cultural icons. International media outlets follow the story closely. The Guardian, among others, reported on the escalating legal battle and its eventual resolution. According to their coverage, the ambitious plan to use a CGI Bruce Lee was quietly dropped. The technical challenges of creating a believable digital human, especially one as beloved and instantly recognizable as Bruce Lee, combined with the legal pressure from BLE, made the endeavor untenable. However, Bruce Lee did not disappear from Ip Man 3. Instead, the production pivoted to a simpler, more traditional solution. They cast Danny Kwan, a Hong Kong actor and martial artist who had previously portrayed Bruce Lee in the 2008 Chinese television series The Legend of Bruce Lee. Chan had spent years studying Lee's mannerisms, vocal inflections, and fighting style. While he was not a perfect double, he was perhaps the next best thing. The CGI crisis had passed, but it left behind a trail of legal questions that would continue to haunt unauthorized Bruce Lee depictions for years to come. Ip Man 3 would eventually be released with Chan in the role, and Tyson's fight scene with Donnie Yen became one of the film's most celebrated sequences. Yet behind the spectacle lay a quieter story of rights, family, and the difficulty of bringing legends back to life, even with computers. For Donnie Yen, the journey back to the role of Ip Man was not a simple reversal of opinion. It was a slow, reluctant surrender to something larger than himself. Despite his earlier declarations that Ip Man 2 should remain the perfect ending, and despite his frustration with the oversaturation of Ip Man films in the marketplace, Yen ultimately agreed to return for a third installment. In interviews following the announcement, he opened up about the deeply personal reasons behind his change of heart. "No matter where I go," Yen confessed, "nobody knows me as Donnie Yen. They call me IP Man." The words carried a mixture of pride and resignation. For an actor who had spent decades building a career in Hong Kong cinema, from the fierce Chan Zhen in Fist of Fury to the heroic general in Hero, being forever associated with a single role was both a blessing and a cage. But Yen chose to see it as the former. "So I decided to play the role one more time to fulfill everyone's wishes," he said. He understood that for millions of fans across Asia and beyond, he was no longer just a performer. He was the living embodiment of the Wing Chun grandmaster, the calm face, the swift hands, the quiet dignity. To deny them a final chapter would feel, in his words, like refusing to say goodbye properly. Yen went further. In several interviews during the promotional tour for Ip Man 3, he implied that this film could very well be his final martial arts film altogether. He was approaching his mid-50s. His body, though still extraordinary by any standard, had endured decades of wire work, joint locks, and thousand-take fight scenes. "Martial arts films require a certain kind of energy," Yen said, "a certain youthfulness. I want to leave the stage before the stage leaves me." While he would not rule out dramatic roles or other genres, the implication was clear. Ip Man 3 might represent the last time audiences would see Donnie Yen unleashing chain punches and low sweeps on the big screen. The statement added a layer of melancholy gravity to the production. Fans who had grown up watching Yen's career, from Iron Monkey, 1993, to SBL, 2005, to the first two Ip Man films, suddenly realized they might be witnessing an era sunset. Alongside Yen's return came another piece of continuity that warmed the hearts of longtime followers of the series. Lynn would reprise her role as Cheung Wing-sing, IP Man's devoted wife. Hung had appeared in both previous films, her performance blending quiet strength with devastating vulnerability, especially in the second film, where she supported her husband through poverty, childbirth, and social humiliation. For Ip Man 3, Hung's role would expand significantly. The film's emotional core, as revealed in early trailers, would revolve around Wing-sing's terminal cancer diagnosis and IP Man's desperate attempts to balance his martial obligations with his duties as a husband. Hung later described the role as her most demanding in the series. In the first two films, she is a pillar, Hung explained. In the third, she becomes the reason. Everything Ip Man does, every fight, every choice is for her. The chemistry between Yen and Hung, honed over two previous productions, would prove essential to selling the film's more sentimental moments. Critics would later note that Ip Man 3 worked best not as a martial arts spectacle, but as a quiet meditation on love and loss, and much of that credit belonged to Hung's restrained, heartbreaking performance. Behind the scenes, another familiar name returned to complete the creative circle. In November 2015, attentive fans noticed an update on the official website of Kenji Kawai, the acclaimed Japanese composer who had scored the first two Ip Man films. Kawai, known internationally for his work on films like Ring, 1998, Seven Swords, 2005, and numerous entries in the Mobile Police Patlabor series, had built the sonic identity of the Ip Man franchise. His scores blended traditional Chinese instruments, eru, pipa, dizzy, with sweeping orchestral arrangements and subtle electronic textures. The main theme from Ip Man, with its slow, aching strings building toward heroic brass, had become almost as iconic as Yen's fighting stance. Kawai's website confirmed what fans had hoped. He had returned to work on the soundtrack of Ip Man 3. "I wanted to honor the journey," Kawai later said in an interview. The first film was about survival, the second about pride, the third is about farewell. The music had to grow with the story. Kawai's involvement ensured that Ip Man 3 would not only look and feel like its predecessors, but would also sound like them, a continuous musical thread tying together a decade of cinematic history. With Yen committed, Hung returning, and Kawai composing, the final piece of the puzzle was in place. All that remained was to film, to fight, and to say goodbye. Principal photography for Ip Man 3 commenced in Shanghai on March 25, 2015, with an atmosphere that mixed excitement with quiet determination. The production had already weathered legal storms over Bruce Lee's likeness, casting negotiations with Mike Tyson, and Donnie Yen's reluctant return. Now came the real challenge, translating all that pre-production energy into actual footage. Shanghai's bustling film studios, located in the city's Songjiang district, were transformed into 1950s-era Hong Kong. Narrow alleyways, wooden signage, cramped rooftop flats. The art department worked overtime to ensure period authenticity, from the faded Coca-Cola advertisements to the correct model of ceiling fans. For the cast and crew, the pressure was immense. Ip Man 2 had set a high bar, and expectations for the threequel were stratospheric. The most anticipated and most dangerous sequence involved the face-off between Donnie Yen's Ip Man and Mike Tyson's Frank, the American property developer and street fighter. Tyson, despite his age, he was 49 during filming, and years removed from his professional boxing prime, still threw punches with terrifying speed and power. During one take of a particularly complex exchange, Tyson's fist connected not with a padded stunt surface, but with an unexpected angle. The result, a fractured finger. Tyson later downplayed the injury in interviews, joking that he had punched a lot of things in his life, but never Donnie Yen's elbow. Production was paused briefly while medical personnel attended to the former champion. Yen, visibly concerned, reportedly insisted on reviewing the choreography to prevent further accidents. Tyson returned to set within days, his finger bandaged, but his enthusiasm undimmed. "This is what real fighting feels like," he told reporters. No fake stuff. Behind the camera, the film boasted an impressive lineage. Yuen Woo-ping, the legendary action choreographer whose credits include The Matrix, 1999, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, 2000, and Kill Bill, 2003, was officially credited as the film's action choreographer. Yuen's name alone guaranteed a certain level of quality and innovation. However, as both Yuen and Yen revealed in later interviews, the on-screen reality was more complicated and more collaborative. Yuen Woo-ping, despite his genius, was not the sole architect of Ip Man 3's fight sequences. Many scenes, perhaps most, were actually choreographed by Donnie Yen himself. Yen, known for his restless creativity and deep understanding of martial arts mechanics, often improvised on set. He would arrive early, rehearse with stuntmen, and then propose entirely new actions and sequences while filming was already underway. "The script says they fight," Yen once explained. "But how they fight, that is a conversation between my body and the director's eyes." This improvisational approach was especially evident in the fight against Tyson. Yen wanted the encounter to feel different from the film's other brawls, not just a Wing Chun versus boxing showcase, but a philosophical clash of styles. Drawing on his own study of mixed martial arts, MMA, and basic physics theories, Yen designed sequences that targeted Tyson's lower body, an area traditional boxers are less trained to defend. Low kicks to the thighs, stomps to the instep, a sweeping motion aimed at the knees. The idea was simple. Frank Tyson was stronger and heavier. Ip Man could not outpunch him, but he could destabilize him. "Every action has an equal and opposite reaction," Yen said, paraphrasing Newton. "If I cannot change his force, I change his foundation." The resulting fight scene became one of the most talked about in the film, praised for its intelligence as much as its intensity. Principal photography wrapped in June 2015, after approximately 3 months of grueling, often 18-hour days. The Shanghai summer was unforgiving, humidity fogged lenses, and air conditioners were banned from certain sets to preserve period soundscapes. Yet by all accounts, the mood remained professional. Donnie Yen, despite his earlier reluctance to return, threw himself into the work with the focus of a man who knew this might be his final martial arts film. He stayed late to rehearse with extras. He consulted with the props department on the weight and balance of butterfly swords. He even gave impromptu Wing Chun lessons to younger cast members. Notably, Yen's contributions to action choreography on Ip Man 3 followed a long-standing pattern in his career. He has gone uncredited many times. His improvisations and creative input have enriched numerous Hong Kong Film Award winners, including the previous 2 Ip Man films, the historical epic Bodyguards and Assassins, 2009, and even the Netflix production Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Sword of Destiny, 2016. In each case, Yen's official title remained lead actor, but those who worked closely with him knew the truth. He was a shadow choreographer, a silent partner in the creation of some of the most memorable fights in modern cinema. Ip Man 3 was no exception. When the credits roll, Yuen Woo-ping's name appears alone under action direction. But in the quiet of the editing room, and in the memories of the cast and crew, Donnie Yen's invisible hand shapes every punch, every block, every graceful, devastating movement. After months of production, post-production, legal maneuvering, and marketing build-up, Ip Man 3 finally arrived in theaters. Though not all at once, and not without a carefully orchestrated rollout that reflected the franchise's global ambitions. The film received its official release in Hong Kong on December 24, 2015, a date chosen with precision. Christmas Eve in Hong Kong is a major cinematic event. Families gather, schools are closed, and the city's notoriously busy shopping districts empty out in favor of dark, air-conditioned theaters filled with popcorn and anticipation. By positioning Ip Man 3 as the holiday blockbuster, distributor Pegasus Motion Pictures signaled confidence that Donnie Yen's third outing as the Wing Chun grandmaster could compete with Hollywood imports and local romantic comedies alike. The strategy paid off immediately. Hong Kong audiences, who had grown up with the franchise and viewed Ip Man as a local hero, turned out in record numbers for opening weekend. The same day, December 24, 2015, also saw the film launch in Malaysia and Singapore, 2 Southeast Asian markets with substantial ethnic Chinese populations and a deep appreciation for Hong Kong martial arts cinema. In Malaysia, where Wing Chun enjoys a dedicated following thanks to the legacy of real-life practitioners who migrated south in the mid-20th century, screenings sold out within hours. Singapore's Golden Village Cinemas reported that advance ticket sales for Ip Man 3 had surpassed those of any Chinese-language film released in the territory that year. The road to this December release had not been straightforward. Earlier in the production cycle, the film had been scheduled for a 2016 release, likely timed to Chinese New Year or the summer blockbuster season. However, as production accelerated and post-production proved smoother than anticipated, the team decided to push the date forward. There were strategic reasons for the change. By releasing in late December 2015, Ip Man 3 could capture both the Christmas holiday audience and ride momentum into January, avoiding direct competition with the wave of Chinese New Year releases that would flood mainland theaters in February. Additionally, an earlier release allowed the film to qualify for awards consideration in certain circuits. The decision, while logistically challenging, marketing campaigns had to be accelerated and distribution deals renegotiated, ultimately gave the film a cleaner runway. The global rollout continued in a staggered fashion. New Zealand received a limited release on December 25, 2015, Boxing Day, targeting the country's modest but passionate Asian diaspora and martial arts enthusiasts. Only a handful of theaters in Auckland, Wellington, and Christchurch screened the film, but those that did reported strong attendance, particularly among late-night showings. Taiwan followed on December 31, 2015, a wide release that allowed the film to close out the year with a bang. New Year's Eve in Taiwan is traditionally a time for watching films after dinner and before fireworks, and Ip Man 3 occupied the prime evening slots in major urban centers like Taipei, Taichung, and Kaohsiung. Local distributors ran special promotions. Anyone who came dressed in traditional Chinese martial arts attire received a discount, leading to memorable sights of families in silk uniforms queuing for popcorn. For American audiences, the wait was slightly longer. The film received a limited release in the United States on January 22, 2016, playing primarily in theaters serving Asian American communities in cities like New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, and Seattle. Wellgo USA Entertainment, which had handled distribution for the previous Ip Man films in North America, opted for a platform release, starting small to generate word of mouth, then expanding if demand warranted. Reviews in English-language outlets were generally positive, with particular praise for the film's emotional weight and the Tyson Yen fight. However, the limited release meant that many American fans had to drive significant distances to find a screening. Social media buzzed with posts from viewers who had traveled 2 or 3 hours just to see Ip Man on the big screen one more time. The most significant market, mainland China, received Ip Man 3 on March 4, 2016. The delay was deliberate. Chinese regulators and distributors often schedule foreign or Hong Kong films around domestic blockbusters, and March offered a relatively clear window. By the time Ip Man 3 arrived in China, it had already grossed over $50 million in other territories, building a wave of positive buzz. The film opened on over 5,000 screens nationwide, a massive release that reflected the growing appetite for high-quality martial arts cinema in the world's second-largest film market. Finally, in a smaller but noteworthy expansion, Ip Man 3 was released in Sri Lanka in March 2016. While not a major market for Hong Kong cinema, Sri Lanka has a dedicated martial arts fan base, and the film played in selected theaters in Colombo and Kandy for 2 weeks. The global release of Ip Man 3, spanning Asia, Oceania, North America, and South Asia, demonstrated just how far the franchise had traveled since Ip Man's quiet rooftop flat in Mong Kok. A local Hong Kong hero had become a worldwide icon. Upon its staggered global release, Ip Man 3 faced the inevitable scrutiny of critics who had followed the franchise from its humble beginnings. The review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes which compiles critical assessments from a wide range of outlets and calculates a percentage of positive reviews, reported that 76% of critics had given Ip Man 3 a favorable assessment. This figure was based on 51 reviews collected during the film's theatrical run and subsequent home media release. The average rating among those critics was 6.4 out of 10, a respectable but not exceptional score, suggesting that while most reviewers found something to appreciate, few consider the film an unqualified masterpiece. More telling was the website's critics' consensus, a single-sentence summary crafted to capture the collective judgment. Ip Man 3 isn't the most tightly plotted biopic a kung fu fan could ask for, but the fight scenes are fun to watch, and at times, the drama is even genuinely poignant. The phrasing revealed a certain ambivalence. The consensus acknowledged the film's narrative weaknesses, its episodic structure, its occasional historical liberties, its reliance on familiar tropes, but also recognized what the franchise had always done best, delivering kinetic, beautifully choreographed violence wrapped in moments of genuine human feeling. The other major review aggregator, Metacritic, offered a slightly cooler assessment. Metacritic uses a weighted average system that accounts for the prestige and rigor of each publication, giving more influence to outlets like the New York Times, The Guardian, and Variety. Based on 14 critic reviews, Ip Man 3 received a score of 57 out of 100. Metacritic classifies scores in this range as indicating mixed or average reviews, neither overwhelmingly positive nor decisively negative. The 57 score placed Ip Man 3 below the first 2 films in the series, which had scored 67 and 64, respectively, suggesting a mild but perceptible decline in critical enthusiasm. Some reviewers felt the franchise had run out of steam. Others admired the shift toward introspection but found the execution uneven. Among the most detailed and influential reviews was Clarence Sui's piece for The Hollywood Reporter. Sui, a veteran critic with deep knowledge of Hong Kong cinema, acknowledged the film's strengths while cataloging its shortcomings. He praised the exhilarating action choreography of Yuen Woo-ping, still a master of the form after 4 decades, and noted the stunt casting of Mike Tyson and Zhang as canny commercial moves. Zhang, in particular, had gained attention as the breakout star of Wong Kar-wai's rival Ip Man biopic The Grandmaster, 2013, where he played a ruthless martial artist. Casting him opposite Donnie Yen created an interesting intertextual dialogue between the 2 film franchises. However, Sui was blunt about the film's weaknesses. Yen and Yip have managed to wring a serviceable film out of a pedestrian plot riddled with erroneous period details. He cited specific anachronisms, incorrect police uniforms, a building that wouldn't have existed in 1959, as evidence of rushed production design. Despite these complaints, Sui concluded that Ip Man 3 was a fitfully effective finale to the franchise, a film that worked in moments even if it didn't cohere as a whole. A more sympathetic but still critical assessment came from James Marsh of Screen International, the respected British film trade publication. Marsh observed that Ip Man 3 represented a tonal shift from its predecessors. Ip Man 3 trades the crowd-pleasing intensity of its predecessors for a more introspective portrait of its central character, he wrote. Where the first 2 films had built toward climactic battles against national or colonial villains, Japanese generals, British boxers, the third film turned inward, focusing on IP Man's relationship with his dying wife and his reluctant mentorship of Bruce Lee. Marsh found this ambition admirable, but not fully realized. Yen has always portrayed Ip Man as a modest beacon of calm and restraint, which has added to the enigmatic nature of the character, Marsh noted. But he struggles here when called upon to express grander emotions. The critique cut to the heart of Yen's performance. He was masterful at conveying quiet dignity and controlled fury, but less convincing when asked to weep, rage, or show vulnerability. As for Mike Tyson, Marsh was dismissive. As expected, Mike Tyson fails to convince in his role of Frank, whose origins are never revealed in the film, and whose motivation is simply greed. The character, Marsh argued, existed only to provide a physical obstacle for Ip Man, lacking the ideological or emotional depth of previous antagonists. Other critics echoed this sentiment, though many conceded that the fight scene between Yen and Tyson was thrilling enough to justify the casting. In the end, Ip Man 3 emerged as a critical success in some corners and a mild disappointment in others. A film that pleased fans of the franchise's action while leaving some critics wishing for a tighter script and a more nuanced villain. But for a martial arts sequel released 5 years after its predecessor, a 76% Rotten Tomatoes score and a 57 Metacritic average were far from disgraceful. The Ip Man franchise had earned the right to an imperfect ending. Beyond the aggregated scores of Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic, individual critics offered a wide spectrum of opinions, some warmly appreciative, others sharply dismissive. Among the more nuanced and positive assessments came from Edmund Lee of the South China Morning Post, Hong Kong's leading English-language daily. Lee awarded the film 3.5 out of 5 stars, a solid rating that placed it in the upper tier of martial arts sequels, but acknowledged its imperfections. His commentary was particularly insightful regarding the film's tonal evolution. Lee wrote, "A respectable action drama that doesn't try to replicate the pleasure of its predecessors, instead admirably turning to contemplate IP's priorities in life. Ip Man 3 will reward those who come in with no preconceptions about what an Ip Man biopic headed by Donnie Yen should be like." This was a crucial observation. Many fans had expected a film in the mold of the first 2 entries, a righteous hero facing an oppressive foreign villain, triumphing through superior kung fu after a final real showdown. Instead, director Wilson Yip and star Donnie Yen had delivered something quieter, more melancholy, and more focused on mortality and domestic love. Lee recognized that this shift required a corresponding shift in audience expectations. "For the character has irreversibly mellowed," he continued, "and it's left to audiences to respond in kind." In other words, the film asked viewers to grow up alongside Ip Man, to trade the thrill of vengeance for the ache of farewell. Another positive voice came from Andrew Cheung, writing for the Film Critics Circle of Australia. Cheung, who had followed the franchise closely, was struck by the trilogy's unusual trajectory. "Rarely do a trilogy of films get better with age," he wrote. "And this one provides us with plenty of the evergreen Yuen Woo-ping inspired fight sequences one after another." Chan's praise focused on the action choreography, the element of the franchise that had remained consistently excellent across all 3 installments. He singled out the elevator fight against the Muay Thai assassin, the warehouse battle with Tin Chi, and the climactic Tyson encounter as highlights of modern martial arts cinema. For Cheung, Ip Man 3 succeeded precisely where other critics found it lacking, in its willingness to prioritize character over plot and atmosphere over narrative tightness. "The film breathes," he wrote. "It takes its time, and when the fights come, they arrive like thunderstorms after long humidity, necessary, cleansing, unforgettable." However, not all critics shared this enthusiasm. One of the most scathing reviews came from Hans David Tampubalin of the Jakarta Post, Indonesia's leading English-language newspaper. Tampubalin, who had been a moderate fan of the first 2 films, found Ip Man 3 nearly unwatchable in its narrative construction. He called the film a messy patchwork of stitched-together plot lines, a harsh but not entirely unfair characterization. The film juggled multiple antagonists, Ma Kingsang, Frank, Tin Chi's rivalry, multiple emotional arcs, Wing Sing's cancer, IP Ching's school troubles, Bruce Lee's apprenticeship, and multiple action set pieces that often felt disconnected from one another. Tampubalin argued that rather than weaving these threads into a coherent whole, the film simply moved from one scene to the next, hoping that the sheer energy of the fights would distract audiences from the lack of structural logic. He concluded that Ip Man 3 was an action-packed but ultimately disappointing finale of the Wing Chun trilogy. Tampubalin reserved his most pointed critique for Donnie Yen's decision to return to the role, a decision Yen had famously resisted before finally relenting. "Well, judging by the atrocious script and character development in Ip Man 3, Tampubalin wrote, there is a very large possibility that Donnie is regretting his final decision to portray the legendary grandmaster for the third time." The implication was biting. Yen had returned to fulfill fan wishes and to give the character a proper send-off, but the material he was given did not honor that commitment. Tampubalin pointed to the underdeveloped villain Frank, Mike Tyson, who appeared with no backstory and vanished just as abruptly, to the rushed resolution of a Tinchi rivalry, and to the sentimental but dramatically shallow treatment of Wing Sing's illness. Where Edmund Lee saw admirable contemplation, Tampubalin saw narrative laziness dressed up in slow-motion rain and mournful cello music. The divide among critics reflected a larger divide among audiences. Some viewers wept openly during the final dance scene between Ip Man and Wing Sing, finding it a beautiful coda to a trilogy about a man who had learned, too late, what truly mattered. Others left the theater frustrated, feeling cheated of the cathartic, bone-crunching finale they had waited 5 years to see. What united both camps was a respect for Donnie Yen's physical commitment. Even his harshest critics conceded that the 52-year-old actor moved with a speed, grace, and precision that defied his age. Ip Man may 3rd not have been the film everyone wanted, but for those willing to meet it on its own terms, as a meditation on mortality wrapped in the body of a martial arts movie, it offered rewards that the first 2 films, for all their crowd-pleasing brilliance, could not provide. The trilogy had ended not with a bang, but with a quiet breath. And for some, that was exactly right. For all the critical debate surrounding Ip Man 3, the mixed reviews, the complaints about plotting, the praise for its emotional ambition, one metric spoke with undeniable clarity: the box office. Audiences around the world voted with their wallets, and their verdict was emphatic. According to Box Office Mojo, the industry standard for box office tracking, Ip Man 3 performed robustly across every major market, though its financial center of gravity remained firmly in Asia. In Hong Kong, the film's home territory, and the city where Ip Man himself had spent his final years, Ip Man 3 earned approximately $7.8 million over its theatrical run. This figure was impressive given Hong Kong's small population, roughly 7.5 million people, and the intense competition from Hollywood blockbusters and local productions. Adjusted for market size, the Hong Kong gross represented a per capita turnout that rivaled the biggest superhero franchises. Donnie Yen, a local boy made good, had delivered again for his hometown audience. In the United States, where martial arts cinema occupies a respected but niche position, Ip Man 3 earned a more modest US $679 for 37 this figure a camera from a limited release. Only if Wonder Theaters, primarily einer Bandcenters with significantation minus American populations. Compared to mainstream Hollywood releases, which often open at $679 for 37 this figure a camera from a limited release. Only if Wonder Theaters, primarily einer Bandcenters with significantation minus American populations. Compared to mainstream Hollywood releases, which often open at 50 million or more. 2.7 million might seem trivial. Buten Thekan Texta foreign minus language film distribution in America, Itwasa solid permans the film spur minus screen average during jits opening weekend was competitive with art minus house fare, and its eventual home video and streaming revenue would fair exceed the theatrical gross. Moreover, the American release had been hampered by piracy. The film had leaked online weeks before its official use debut, and with a growing fragmentation of TIFL market. For a honking martial arts sequel released 5 years after its predecessor. 2.7 million might seem trivial. Buten Thekan Texta foreign minus language film distribution in America, Itwasa solid perments dat the film spur minus screen average during jits opening weekend was competitive with art minus house fare, and its eventual home video and streaming revenue would fare exceed the theatrical gross. Moreover, the American release had been hampered by piracy. The film had leaked online weeks before its official use to but with a growing fragmentation of the film market. For a honking martial arts sequel released 5 years after its predecessor, 2.7 million was nothing to dismiss. The real story of Ip Man 3's financial success, however, unfolded in mainland China, the world's second largest film market, and the engine driving much of contemporary global cinema. The film's performance there was nothing short of spectacular. On its opening day alone, Ip Man 3 earned US $24.1 million, debuting at no point one and displacing locale and Hollywood competition alike. The following day, its second day of release, the film added another US $24.1 million, debuting at no point one and displacing locale and Hollywood competition alike. The following day, its second day of release, the film added another US $28.7 million. This brought its two-day total to a staggering $52.4 million US dollars, more than many Hollywood blockbusters earn in their entire domestic runs. The numbers reflected not just the popularity of Donnie Yen and the Ip Man franchise, but a broader cultural moment. Chinese audiences in the mid-2010s were hungry for stories that celebrated Chinese martial arts, Chinese values, and Chinese resilience in the face of foreign adversity. Ip Man 3, despite its introspective turn, still delivered those themes in abundance. The film's opening weekend in China was a phenomenon. Over the course of 3 days, Friday through Sunday, Ip Man 3 topped the box office with an estimated $71.2 million US dollars. To put that number in perspective, the film earned more in its first weekend in China than the entire worldwide gross of many critically acclaimed independent films. The scale of the release was immense, 191,400 screenings across the country, from first-tier cities like Beijing and Shanghai to smaller provincial capitals. Total admissions for the weekend reached 10.4 million people. That meant that on that single weekend, roughly 1 in every 130 Chinese citizens had gone to see Ip Man on the big screen. The queues outside multiplexes stretched down sidewalks. Social media buzzed with discussions of the Tyson fight, the elevator scene, and the final, tearful dance between Ip Man and his dying wife. When all markets were tallied, the international gross, excluding Hong Kong and the United States, reached US $154, $165, $316. This figure included earnings from across Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia, the Philippines, Northeast Asia, South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Oceania, Australia, New Zealand, and Europe, primarily the United Kingdom, France, and Germany, where the film had a modest but respectable release, that adding Hong Kong and juice totals brought worldwide a box office to US $154, $165, $316. This figure included earnings from across Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia, the Philippines, Northeast Asia, South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Oceania, Australia, New Zealand, and Europe, primarily the United Kingdom, France, and Germany, where the film had a modest but respectable release, that adding Hong Kong and juice totals brought worldwide a box office to US $156, $844, $753. By any reasonable measure, Ip Man 3 was a commercial triumph. It had more than doubled the worldwide gross of Ip Man 2, approximately $75 million, and significantly exceeded the first film as $75 million, and significantly exceeded the first film as $45 million total. For a franchise that had begun as a modest Hong Kong production with no guarantee of international appeal, these numbers represented a remarkable ascent. Donnie Yen, who had worried about oversaturation and declining quality, could rest easy. Audiences had spoken, and they wanted more IP Man. In fact, they would eventually get Ip Man 4. The finale in 2019 which grossed even more. But for the trilogy that ended in 2015, the box office validated what the critics could not agree upon. Ip Man 3 was, at the very least, the film that millions of people around the world chose to watch. And in the movie business, that counts for everything. Following its successful theatrical run across Asia, North America, and select European markets, Ip Man 3 began its second life on home video, a crucial revenue stream for martial arts films, which often find their largest and most devoted audiences through repeat viewings, collectible physical media, and digital downloads. The Blu-ray release strategy mirrored the film's staggered theatrical rollout, prioritizing the Asian market first before expanding westward. In Hong Kong, where the franchise enjoyed near-universal recognition, the Blu-ray arrived on March 10, 2016. This relatively quick turnaround, just over 2 months after the film's Hong Kong theatrical debut on December 24, 2015, was typical for the region, where home video windows had compressed significantly due to rising competition from streaming platforms. The Hong Kong Blu-ray release featured both Cantonese and Mandarin audio tracks, a necessity for a film that straddled 2 linguistic markets, as well as traditional Chinese and English subtitles. Bonus materials included a behind-the-scenes featurette focused on the Mike Tyson fight, a deleted scene showing an extended conversation between Ip Man and Bruce Lee, and an audio commentary track featuring director Wilson Yip and action choreographer Yuen Woo-ping. Collectors who purchased the first pressing edition also received a small booklet of production stills and a replica of the film's calligraphic poster. Pre-orders on Hong Kong e-commerce platforms like Yes Asia and Bioyo sold out within days, prompting a second pressing even before the official release date. The United Kingdom, a smaller but culturally significant market for Hong Kong cinema, received its Blu-ray release on April 25, 2016. The UK distributor, Cine Asia, a label under the larger Kaleidoscope Home Entertainment, had handled the previous Ip Man films and knew the audience well. British fans of martial arts cinema, nurtured on decades of Shaw Brothers classics, Bruce Lee films, and Jackie Chan adventures, had embraced Donnie Yen's Ip Man as a worthy successor to those traditions. The UK Blu-ray offered slightly different bonus content, including an extended interview with Yen about his approach to the role and a featurette on the historical accuracy and deliberate inaccuracies of the film's portrayal of 1950s Hong Kong. The release was region-locked to Region B, Europe, Africa, Australia, and parts of the Middle East, meaning that collectors in North America who operate under Region A would need a multi-region player to watch the UK disc. This technical barrier, while frustrating to some fans, was standard industry practice designed to prevent cross-territory arbitrage. What surprised industry observers was the film's performance in the UK home video market. According to official sales data compiled by the British Association for Screen Entertainment, BASE, and reported by trade publications, Ip Man 3 became the second best-selling foreign-language film on home video in the United Kingdom for the calendar year 2016. The only foreign-language film to outsell it was the French biographical drama Victor Young Perez, a film about a Tunisian Jewish boxer who became a world champion before perishing in the Holocaust. That film's subject matter, historical tragedy, sporting triumph, and Holocaust remembrance, had resonated deeply with British audiences seeking meaningful, award-caliber cinema. For Ip Man 3 to place second, ahead of numerous acclaimed foreign-language films from France, Germany, Italy, Japan, South Korea, and India, was a significant achievement for a martial arts sequel that had received mixed critical notices. The UK sales figures revealed several interesting trends about the home video market in the mid-2010s. First, they confirmed that martial arts films had a loyal, aging, but still economically viable fan base that preferred physical media over streaming. Unlike younger viewers who might be content with a compressed, ad-supported stream on a laptop, martial arts enthusiasts often sought out high bitrate Blu-ray discs to appreciate the fine details of Yuen Woo-ping's choreography, the snap of a sleeve, the blur of a fist, the precise impact of a palm strike. Second, the numbers suggested that Ip Man 3 had found an audience beyond the traditional martial arts demographic. The film's emphasis on Ip Man's relationship with his dying wife, its slower pace, and its melancholic tone may have alienated some action purists, but it also attracted viewers who would never normally watch a kung fu film. These crossover viewers, drama lovers, film festival attendees, older couples, purchased or rented the Blu-ray out of curiosity or word-of-mouth recommendation, and their purchases contributed to the film's strong showing. Third, the UK's success demonstrated the enduring power of franchise branding. Even viewers who had not seen Ip Man 3 in theaters knew the name, knew Donnie Yen's face, and trusted that a film with Ip Man in the title would deliver a certain baseline quality. That trust translated into sales. By the end of 2016, Ip Man 3 had sold tens of thousands of Blu-ray and DVD units across the UK, generating millions of pounds in additional revenue beyond the theatrical gross. For the producers at Pegasus Motion Pictures, the home video performance was a welcome validation. The film that some critics had dismissed as a messy patchwork had found a second life in the living rooms of Britain. And for Donnie Yen, who had worried that returning to the role might dilute the franchise's legacy, the Blu-ray sales figures offered a quiet, comforting answer. People still wanted to watch Ip Man. They still wanted to believe in a hero who fought not for glory, but for family. And they were willing to pay, again and again, to bring that hero home. In the months following the theatrical and home video release of Ip Man 3, a curious uncertainty hung over the franchise. Despite the film's marketing as a finale, complete with the death of Ip Man's wife, a poignant dance sequence, and a sense of narrative closure, many sources suggested that Ip Man 3 could indeed be the final film in the series. The trilogy's structure felt complete: a beginning, Ip Man's arrival in Hong Kong and his resistance against Japanese aggression; a middle, his establishment as a master and his defense against colonial arrogance; and an end, his quiet contemplation of mortality and legacy. To add a fourth chapter, some argued, would be to risk the very oversaturation that Donnie Yen had warned about years earlier. Yet the box office numbers told a different story. Audiences had not abandoned the franchise. On the contrary, Ip Man 3 had grossed over $156 million worldwide, more than the previous two films combined. In the cold arithmetic of the film industry, such returns rarely lead to endings. Patrick Brzezinski, a veteran correspondent for The Hollywood Reporter covering the Asian film market, was among the first to suggest that reports of the franchise's death were greatly exaggerated. In an analytical piece published shortly after Ip Man 3's successful opening weekend in China, Brzezinski noted that the film's strong commercial performance made it highly unlikely that Pegasus Motion Pictures would simply walk away. Given the numbers, Brzezinski wrote, I wouldn't be surprised if a sequel was made. His prediction was not a leak from an inside source, but a sober assessment of industry economics. Franchises that earn over $150 million on mid-range budgets do not end. They pause, regroup, and then announce another chapter. The only question was whether Donnie Yen, the franchise's face, soul, and de facto co-choreographer, would agree to return. Behind the scenes, producer Raymond Wong had already begun planting the seeds. Wong, a veteran of Hong Kong cinema who had shepherded the Ip Man franchise from its inception, expressed clear interest in making a fourth film. In interviews, he framed the possibility not as a cash grab, but as a continuation of Ip Man's story into new territory. The first three films had covered the grandmaster's early years in Hong Kong, his struggles with poverty and colonial oppression, and his personal losses. A fourth film, Wong suggested, could follow Ip Man to America, specifically to Seattle, where Bruce Lee had opened his first June Fan Gung Fu Institute. Such a story would allow the franchise to explore the student-teacher relationship more deeply, while also introducing new cultural conflicts and martial arts styles. Donnie Yen, who had initially been reluctant to make a third film, adopted a cautiously open stance. In interviews following Ip Man 3's release, Yen stated that a fourth film was possible, but only under specific conditions. He would need a good script, he said, one that justified the character's continued journey. And he would need to see that audience reaction to Ip Man 3 warranted another installment. Translation: if the fans wanted more, and if the story was worth telling, Yen would not stand in the way. The fans, as the box office figures demonstrated, wanted more. And on September 30th, 2016, Yen made the announcement official. In a Facebook post that quickly went viral across Asia and among martial arts enthusiasts worldwide, Yen wrote that he and director Wilson Yip would continue the franchise with Ip Man 4. The post was characteristically brief. Yen was not a man given to long, sentimental declarations, but its impact was seismic. Fan forums exploded with speculation. Would the film feature a younger Bruce Lee? Would Ip Man face Western martial arts again? Would Mike Tyson's character return, or would a new antagonist emerge? The announcement also quieted the lingering uncertainty among investors and distributors. Pegasus Motion Pictures could now plan for a major production, and international sales agents could begin pre-selling rights to territories that had made the first 3 films so profitable. Filming for Ip Man 4 began in April 2018, nearly 2.5 years after the announcement. The delay was due to several factors. Yen's other commitments, including XXX, return of Xander Cage in Mulan, the need to secure filming locations in the United States, and the complex choreography required to depict Ip Man in his final years. The fourth film would be set in the late 1960s, with an older, grayer Ip Man already suffering from the throat cancer that would eventually kill him. Production took place primarily in Shanghai and in the Seattle area, where the crew recreated Chinatown circa 1965. The budget was the largest of the franchise, reflecting both inflation and the increased logistical demands of an overseas shoot. After post-production, the final film, billed appropriately as Ip Man 4, the finale, was released on December 20th, 2019, just in time for the Christmas and New Year holiday season. It would go on to earn over $200 million worldwide, making it the highest-grossing entry in the series. Donnie Yen, who had once sworn he would never make a third Ip Man film, had now completed a fourth. And this time, when he said it was the end, even the skeptics believed him. The franchise had begun with a quiet master in a modest Hong Kong flat. It ended with a global icon, his legacy secure, his story told from every angle. For the fans who had followed Ip Man from 2008 to 2019, the journey was complete. For Yen, who had grown older and grayer alongside the character, it was finally time to hang up the wooden dummy and rest.